This is episode 205 of the Super League pod, and this is the 2019 Super League preview show. We've got a full squad of hosts on deck, so get yourselves ready for all your views, all our views, some controversial, some not so. It's time for the Super League preview. So everyone, it's Mark here, and I'm also joined by all the main co-hosts. We've got Tim, Alan and Sarah all on the line. Say hello all in one group, everyone.
Hello all in one group.
Hello in group.
Sarah, you there?
I said hello.
Right.
Oh, that bodes well, doesn't it? How coordinated that was.
So, this
It's
is
like an RFL press release.
going to be a long one, isn't it? This is our 2019 Super League season preview show. So you should already have listened to our 2019 prediction short. If you haven't, go back and catch that as we talk a little bit more about who we think is going to be lifting the silverware. We explain our choices for the trophies there, and also who you, the listeners, voted for to win the big trophies. So, and the Man of Steel award, actually. So get onto that episode. On this episode, we'll be going team by team through the Super League sides. We'll hear what each of the fans of each of the side expect, and then also we'll kind of give a mention to who we think maybe are going to be the star men for each side in 2019. So before we move on to our team by team, which will start alphabetically with the Castleford Tigers, we're just going to have a little word from our sponsors. This episode of Super League Pod is brought to you by Little Warden. If you have a website, then visit littlewarden.com and see what they can do to help you. If they can help with domain expiration checks, link redirects, I think that is, all sorts of other important background web stuff that they'll make simple for you, more simple than I can make it, that's for sure. Little Warden, monitoring the tedious. Get to littlewarden.com, give our sponsors big support. And now we are going to start our team by team season preview. So the first team we're going to talk about for the 2019 season is the Castleford Tigers. This one, myself, Mark and Alan are going to do most of the taking you through this one. So we're going to go through the fan reviews. We'll alternate through these, Al, and then we'll talk about our own, who the sides have lost and gained, and maybe our own predictions as well for the sides. So, multi-award winning Fat Boy Rob, our friend who won the Listeners Listener Year of the Award, Listeners Listener of the Year award last year, said he expects more bar staff, the Bogs not to flood, to beat Leeds 3 times, and to win everything.
Fair enough. Fat Boy Bob says, back to champions form, contributing most of the England side, dominating in all offensive and defensive categories, setting records across the whole sport while redefining the greatest game on the pitch. It sounds a lot like his friend Rob.
It's really caught the essence of the man he's aping there, hasn't he? Matt expects a good cup run with a top 4 finish, wobbly start with a strong finish to the season, big mid-season signing he expects, possibly some drama too. After all, that's what we do. I think that's a yawn face, I'm not sure.
Yeah, emojis passed me by. Blind Bobby says, more consistent, less injuries. Sorry about that, Blind Bobby. Another cheeky top 4 finish, apparently.
Ollie Smith expects more from the Tigers than in 2018. He'll be happy with a Challenge Cup win and a top 4 finish. I think most fans of most clubs would. Ollie, good stuff.
Yeah, Johnny says not a lot, in contrast.
Matthew Townsley maybe explains why Johnny expects not a lot by saying it's a major blow losing Luke Gale, but Powell is a fantastic coach and we've been here before. People will expect us to fall off a cliff, but we won't. We are fantastic at home and win most derby games. I think 5th. Would love us to really go for the Challenge Cup.
Yeah, and finally from Mark, it says, competitive and solid. We have a decent squad that has competed in the top 4 the last few years, but luck, injuries and form of the other teams, we'll see whether we can replicate that. We'll be in the mix, but looking at 5th this season.
I think I put Johnny in twice, so we'll just move on now to the losses and gains. So, obviously, when we talk about gains, they've just brought in Jordan Rankin on the swap deal with Joe Wardle. When we talk about the players they've lost, Jake Webster's gone, James Green has gone, Gadwin Springer's gone, QLT was only kind of there temporarily anyway, Brandon Douglas has gone on a permanent deal away from the club, Kieran Gill is out on loan, and Jack Ray has left as well, the young hooker there. So last season, they finished third in the league. They didn't do much in the cup. Our listeners think they're going to finish fourth this year. What's your prediction for them?
I think the listeners are very astute. I think I've also got them fourth. I think, and that's even kind of knowing what happened with Gale. Really, I think they've still got, although obviously they haven't brought many people in. I still think they're a top quality team, and I still think they can win enough of those big games. So I have them probably best of the rest, kind of in fourth.
Right. Okay. Is there anything sort of more beyond that for you? Who do you think maybe is going to be the stars of the show for them? Who are you expecting to shine and why?
Okay, I reckon it's a pretty obvious one. A lot relies on Truman, really. I think it depends. He's still incredibly young for a second season to be on the back of him. But I think for me, he's the star player because if it doesn't work out for him this year, I think they're in a fair bit of trouble, and I think we'll have to reassess that fourth prediction, and they'll probably finish outside the top five if he has a bit of a sophomore slump type thing. In terms of rising star, it was quite tricky. Obviously, they've got a few younger players. I picked somebody purely through somebody I've seen. I picked the winger Agodo. He was at Bradford a bit last year. Looked decent. Whether how many games he'll get, I'm not entirely sure. But for me, he looked like a guy who had promise. So I'd hopefully he'll get some games and break into the side.
Fair enough. I mean, Starman, I went the same as you. I went with Jake Truman just because so much does rest on him. And to be fair, he was quality last year. Apparently, he set up a few tries with his kicks in the big friendly against Leeds as well. I don't know if that counts as one of Rob's 3 wins against the Rhinos. I mean, I worried for Cass before Luke Gale went down for the year, to be honest, because the squad is good, but it feels thinner than 2018, and there's been no recruitment really, has there? The area I'm most worried about for is the outside backs, where I think they have one top draw combo on the left, don't they, with Shenton and Eden. But it's a little bit makeshift and new on the right, with possibly Minikin and Clare, or possibly Foster and Minikin or Clare. But yeah, and then there's not much experience depth behind them either. I mean, Rankin helps a bit in the whole range of the backs. He can play anywhere, he might play half-back, but yeah, I just think they're weak in the backs depth-wise as well. That's kind of why I've picked rising star Callum Turner, because I think he showed a few games last year that he's good, plays at full-back, might play on the wing a little bit as well. I kind of think he might come in and get some games on the wing this year with that lack of quality that I'm looking at in the depth there. So I think he might rise up this year. There's more quality depth in the forwards, isn't there, for Cass? So I do think they're stronger there. But again, with the injuries heading into the season in the halves are a concern, like we've both talked about Jake Truman now. So, yeah, it wouldn't shock me if they got close in the cup. Like I said on the prediction show, I think the cup's wide open. But being in the playoffs would surprise me for Cass, if I'm totally honest. I don't know if you have any counterpoints to that, Al, given that you expect them to finish fourth and I'm saying seventh.
Yeah, well, you're right. I think they are probably stronger in the pack now that they've retained. If you look at the losses, they haven't really lost any key performers in the forward pack. Obviously, Watson from the start of the season, you've kind of got, you'd expect Millington to be, although he's not, he's the wrong side of 30 now, and perhaps, time might start to catch up with him a bit more, but you'd expect McShane to still be an influence next year.
Yeah.
You'd expect them to still be a team that's good going forward and would create some space for for Truman and whoever else. I mean, who else do we think is playing in the halves? Are we going for Roberts?
Rankin started in the friendly against Leeds, but that is possibly because Ellis is injured for the start of the year, and from what I've heard, Roberts is going to be needled up if he's playing early doors in the season. So yeah, it is a worrying area, isn't it? So that's going to be interesting to watch. I think really interesting to watch to see if a side that's been building and retained can just step up that next level that they'll need to do without arguably their most influential player. Sarah, just quickly, what league position have you got for them, and do you have any different people in the Rising Star or Starman than what we've mentioned?
I've gone for them 8th. I think Gill being out and as you've said, Ellis and Roberts potentially not being fit, I think that'll have big impacts. Jordan Rankin, I loved as a whole player, but because of his enthusiasm, his passion, his connection with the fans rather than him as a player, I don't think that he is a like-for-like replacement for any of those.
Yeah.
I don't think he's of the same quality of any of them.
Fair enough.
He's a bit of squad depth, isn't he, as Rankin? Multiple position type player.
Yeah. Great to have a bench or to know you've got us covered, but not necessarily someone that you want starting week in, week out.
He's had a lot of time in Super League and he hasn't nailed down a particular starting spot. So I'm on board with kind of what you're saying about that. It's an opportunity, though, for him. Tim, what about you? What's the league position and any different names to throw out there for Starman or potential Rising Star?
I kind of agree on the Starman and the Rising Star. I had them going 5th. I had them sort of being there, but I probably didn't consider the point you made about the depth. And I actually kind of agree with it. So maybe I have got them a spot too high because you think they have been exiting rather than bringing people in. Yes, it means they're back in their youth, which could be very good, particularly for Truman and co when they get a run of games. But yeah, it is the kind of thing that's going to hurt you, especially with the sort of record they've seen down there out of the jungle.
Yeah, fair enough. I suppose the other halfback we haven't mentioned is Corey Aston, who did get some game time before Rankin kind of came into the squad. So it's going to be a really interesting mix to find out and see if they can stay fit in the outside backs there at Castleford. That's all our views on Castleford. So we're going to move on to the Catalan Dragons.
Okay, so yes, the next one we're going to look at is the Catalan Dragons, and Alan's going to join me on this one. Start off with your views here. What do people expect? Starting with Marco Mateos, Alan.
Yes, so optimistic. Double. That's what Stupid Coach Steve says. Camp Nou versus Wigan is a big success for the game, but opportunity missed by RL and SL. Might not happen if Spain gets its way.
Political.
John Murray, presumably not the BBC 5 Live commentator, says finish outside the top 5.
You never know. James Warner says, I think Catalan will go close again in the Cup and finish 5th in the league. New signings will make us more creative at home and resilient away. The return of Ledarbit with the Broncos will give us some rivalry to look forward to. I expect McIlroy to sweep up the end of season player awards and David Mead to be with Tony Gigo as top try scorer.
Track Catala says Dragons Catalan vont exploser. Your guess is as good as mine.
They're going to explode? I don't know.
Right, yeah. Okay.
That would be obvious. And JD says,
implode or explode? Yeah.
Yeah. Make a big
Maybe
noise.
They're going to be explosive.
JD finally says, doubt they'll make the top 5, but go close.
Yeah, so looking firstly at the exit door in Perpignan, they've lost quite a few, but mainly there's a couple of interesting ones. So Luke Walsh has made his way out. Vincent Dupont, Louis Anderson, they're probably to be expected. There's a natural turnover. The one that is slightly interesting, and we'll probably talk about it more in a minute when we talk about Holkar, is Josh Drinkwater. Going, what do you think of this one? They didn't retain him.
They didn't, which is a shame, but they have replaced him. with somebody. Obviously, I think obviously Yaha shows flashes of stuff. But obviously, and they haven't replaced him. But you never know; he might be back mid-season if previous form is anything to go by. But yeah, I mean, I think
he could do a Pomeroy. Yeah.
Yeah,